just good person to work with.
Thank you, he is.
Welcome to the Delaware County Commissioner meeting Monday, March 18th, 9:03. Let's please stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Ms. Reagan.
Present.
Mr. Bruck.
Here.
Thank you. I think the table business is going to stay tabled, is that correct?
Yes, that should stay stable.
Okay, the approval of the minutes, please.
You want to do the appointment?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. We did add an appointment, or we did add the Visitors Bureau, and we have an opening, and Mr. Leland Wilhoit, or Dr. Leland Wilhoit is interested. I've had a nice conversation with him. He's a very busy young man and has the experience of serving on quite a few boards.
I'll make a motion, we appoint Dr. Leland Wilhoit to the Visitors Bureau.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, and approval of the March 4th minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. And today we have a
Madam President, you also have a set of minutes from the March 11th meeting that I believe Denise sent to everybody. They're not on the list, but
Yeah.
there was
I
a special
approved the
meeting on March
meeting.
11th.
Yes.
I got those. I'll make a motion, we approve the March 11th meeting minutes
I'll
also.
second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Yes, she did send those. Okay, now we have a presentation from the Muncie Alliance for Prevention of Substance Abuse, and I believe the spokesman is...
Yes. I think Bishop Mitchell's going to say a couple of words and then I'll take
I was
over.
looking for him.
There he is.
There he is. Bishop Mitchell.
Where should I stand here?
Yeah,
Oh, the podium over here, sir.
All right, thank you. First, we want to thank you for allowing us to come here today. My name is H. Royce Mitchell. I am the president and the CEO of the MAPA, which stands for Muncie Alliance for Prevention of Substance Abuse. We were formed in 1992. Mrs. Vivian Conley and myself were the original founders. Today we want to give you a presentation in regards to a project that we desire to do to help some of the issues that we're having in our community. And we have a young man by the name of Brian Rogers along with Bob Keck. And Brian's going to show you some of the things that we tend to do to kind of relieve some of the issues that we're facing in our city. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian right now, let him begin to share. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a minister as well, and we have decided to do in Muncie similar to what we have done in Indianapolis and in South Bend. And so we call this MAPA, and that does stand for Muncie Alliance for the Prevention of Substance Abuse, one of the biggest problems being faced in the county. And so we try to reach out to the least of these. These are people that a lot of society throws away. But the thing is, they can end up being your neighbor, my neighbor. They can end up being people that are affecting the community in a whole lot of negative ways. But with training and help, they can affect the neighborhoods in positive ways. And so we want to thank Sherry Reagan, Shannon Henry, and James King for allowing us to come here today. The PowerPoint that I'm showing will be emailed to all three of you today so that you'll have all the notes and numbers that's in here. And we want to thank the churches. The churches are really getting behind us in what we're doing here in the leadership, and most of all the people of Delaware County. So that's just the information that shows what MAPA stands for. First thing people always say is, where's the S? But it wasn't a good acronym, so we called it MAPA. And so we are a Indiana not-for-profit and federally registered as a 501c3. So Royce Mitchell, 40 years in ministry in Muncie. He grew up here. He has a church called Deliverance Temple over on 2nd Street. He's the chaplain of the Sheriff's Department, the Muncie Police Department, the Fire Department. Bob Keck. Bob, you want to raise your hand? He's an entrepreneur. He's a retired Army captain of 20 years. And I'm a minister and an entrepreneur, and I was incarcerated for 13 years. And so I know the things that people go through coming out of this. And that's a story in and of itself. I speak in churches about that. And so that's something that I would love to invite you all to hear when we're speaking at one of the churches here in town. So our mission statement with MAPA is to help influence the participants to stop abusing themselves. That's really what they're doing. They're abusing themselves, which in turn abuses other people. And we're trying to teach them how to serve themselves the right way. And we want to work within the criminal justice system to make a difference and provide services and programs and alternatives to incarceration. Help reintegrate people back into the community in a positive way. What are some of the things we plan to do? Our tangible goals is to have men's transitional housing, women's transitional housing, housing for families, housing for seniors, VA housing, community center, food pantry, job placement services, substance abuse training, discipleship training, jail ministry, and prison ministry. And so all this stuff works hand in hand with one another, and it's not something that happens overnight. This is the transitional house that we have in Indianapolis. It's operated under the name of Foresight Forgivers Foundation. The next slide will show you the one that we have in South Bend. So we have a guy that's running those. So Bob and I's whole effort is over here with Bishop Mitchell and what we're getting ready to do over here in this particular community. That's the one in South Bend. They're just houses that we convert over to use for transitional housing. This is the one that will be the men's transitional house right here in Muncie. It's right across the street from Deliverance Temple. Matter of fact, that was their fellowship hall until they donated it to MAPA. And so that's where the men's transitional house will be. Right next to it, as you're looking at that slide to the right, sits this house, and this one will be the women's transitional house to start with. That is not nearly big enough to do what we need to do, neither is the men's house, but we want to have more than one location. What you don't want to have is too many people at one spot, because when you have one person go south, they can affect everybody else, and so you don't want to have everybody congregated at one particular location. The jail ministry is a key to what we're doing. As you all know, the jail is tight here, it's overcrowded. The space for us to go in and do ministry is very difficult. And so we're working with the sheriff to figure out a way to do that, because it's imperative that we meet with people and get people thinking a certain way before they get out of incarceration. Because we have a 13-week process. If we can have people for 13 weeks before getting out, we can judge the ones that we feel are going to be successful. Does that make sense? So the benefits of MAPA is to reduce recidivism. Not everybody's familiar with that word, but that's the people that are incarcerated and then go back. In the state of Indiana, in 3 years, it's at 83% that people fail in some way. They may not necessarily go back to prison, but they're in trouble again within 3 years. And so we want to reduce jail overcrowding, and if people aren't going back, we're not recycling the same people, that makes a huge difference. Reduce pressure on the criminal justice system, because we're taking a part in helping people readjust their lives to succeed. Increased home ownership. We're going to be going into an area that is a downtrodden area. You know, everybody knows where the Millennial Project is. As soon as you go one street over, which is where Deliverance Temple is, you're into an area that's really tough, and that's the area that we're trying to target. So we want to revitalize that area, and the work that's going to be done there, a lot of that work will happen from the men and women living in the transition houses, because we want them to learn skills that are marketable to be able to go out and make money. At the same time, we're taking houses and properties that aren't producing anything for the county right now and turning them into successful properties that we can get back on the tax rolls. And it helps men and women and families learn to live lives of success in doing that. So, Rehabilitation Facts, we are a Christian organization, and we believe that spiritual training is imperative. If people don't want to be spiritually right, we don't believe we can help them be right. And so that is a very big key in what we're doing with these houses. Immediate housing upon release. When somebody gets out of jail or prison today, many times they've burnt bridges with everybody they know, and they have no place to go. And so a lot of the recidivism happens in the first 72 hours, because where do I go? I don't have a place to eat, it's cold out, and they know if they commit a crime, they have a place to go. And that may sound weird to somebody not been incarcerated, but it's a very common thinking among people. Food, clothing, personal hygiene, transportation, and a communication device. In order for people to get employment, they got to be able to receive calls. And so these are things that we try to solve very fast on the front end. Employment with sustainable incomes. Minimum wage doesn't handle it for people to be able to get out if they're on their own and be able to make it. And so it's a proven fact. Once again, I get a lot of these stats from the Department of Justice, but $5,000 earned by somebody in the first 90 days they're out reduces their chance of going back to prison by 50%. So it's about a $400 a week thing, right? And so that's only $10 an hour, but people can live off of that at a low level, but they can live off of that and have their own place. And so we try to help them get that and work with employers to make that happen. Home ownership reduces recidivism by 50%. If people own their own home, there's less chance of a crime being committed. We use life skills training. We have a book that I co-authored called Family Power, and that book helps people learn how to do the basic things to succeed in life, how to communicate, how to deal with conflict resolution. And we have another book that I also co-authored. It's On the Road to Manhood. These are being used in prison settings, and these are being used in other jails right now. And so they have to establish the right social network. If they hang around the same people they hung around before, not a very good chance of success. And so we try to help them establish a new network of people. And then enhance education and job training, get them some kind of skill that's marketable. So we've united a lot of the churches together. We're still doing this. This is in process. But it's manageable and affordable if you have all the churches coming together trying to do this instead of a church trying to do all this and help all these people. And so the churches will have weekly or monthly financial contributions. The goal is to have 40 churches involved. Each church will actually adopt one MAPA resident. In other words, they'll go to church at their church and they will become part of their church family, so they have a different social network around them than what they had before. And each church will actually claim the transitional house as an extension of their own ministry. We're not trying to promote MAPA, we're trying to promote each church and each church working with the people. And it'll take all of us working together as a community to make it work. Buildings and land are free and clear that we already have. And we want to work with the county to obtain additional land and buildings. So specifically, why we're here today is we're asking Delaware County Commissioners to donate the following properties to MAPA. And I'm going to have them on this list, and like I said, we'll email this to you. We're going to use some of them for transitional house expansion. We're going to use some of them for house renovation and new construction, similar to the Habitat for Humanity process, but it'll be done through MAPA. We'll be taking some blank lots, putting new homes on it in this bad area of town. And we'll also be taking houses that are in bad shape and converting them. And so we'll be teaching people skills at the same time that we're doing that. We have a bank that we're working with here in town that believes that they will be able to provide funding to the purchaser that don't have to fit traditional criteria to get a mortgage loan. And so they'll be giving them a lower interest rate and loosening up the restrictions on what it would take for them to be able to get the loan. And we've got some dreams of doing something with the new community center that was one that was going to be built with the Millennial Project. We hope to get involved and help to make that happen in this area. So the properties requested by the ministry, there's a big picture of it, but the purple properties are ones that we already own through the ministry. And it's hard for you to see that up there, but there's also a draft at the end of this that actually has the addresses on each of these properties. Then on the orange properties are ones that are in the tax sale right now, the regular tax sale, and so we're going to be working with the county to put bids on those. But all the blue properties are the ones that are in the commissioner's sale that aren't producing anything right now that we want to do one of those three things with that I mentioned earlier. And so there's actually 3 sheets of that. So It's really tough, I know, to see this on a PowerPoint, but I didn't have a good way to get that into scale for you. But when you've got this sitting in front of you, it's a lot easier to see. So you see at the top of this one where the purple box is, and it has the white little box in it, that's Deliverance Temple's church. So if you was to come over, as you're looking at that to the left of that first corner, that would be 2nd and Vine. And as you know, that's the end of the Millennial Project and the beginning of this tough area of town. And so there's 3 sheets that indicate all the different properties that we hope to do something with initially. We hope that we begin to do this and that other people get involved with properties they have because they have new hope for it. You know, once you start the ball rolling and property values begin to increase, then people begin to do things. And so this list on the left column has the properties that Deliverance Temple and the ministry already has. The blue is the list of all the properties that we're trying to do something with the commissioner's sale, and to the right is the ones that are on the tax sale that we have to deal with a different way. And so the proverb that I live by is Proverbs 3:27. This is my personal mission statement, and it just simply says, do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. And so we want to reach out to help people, which in turn helps the county, helps the city, and helps us all as people, a part of the community. And so something I don't have on the PowerPoint is there's a movie that I showed to the churches. It's called The Touch. If anybody ever gets an opportunity to look at that, I'll have this here if you want to take a picture of it with your phone before you leave. But it's about an 1.5-hour movie, and it talks about a church that did this and all the opposition they had within their church, within their community, and then once they did it and how it worked out. It was a true story, how it worked out and all the things that that particular community is doing as a result of what that church did by starting it. And so I don't know what your process is here. I'm open for questions if people want to ask questions, or if you guys have questions for me. But that's the end of the actual PowerPoint presentation. Thank you,
Mr. Rogers. My question is, how long have you been organized down at Indianapolis?
Bob, was that 4 years ago?
2015.
2015, yeah. Foresight Forgivers Foundation.
And I'm sorry you weren't able to get in contact with Mr. King and Mr. Henry. So, what's your pleasure? What was there Charlie?
Charlie's here.
Is there a deadline on the properties needing to be transferred before?
Well, if we want to do that, we want to wait till the final process with the judge certifying our list over at Circuit 5, and then if there's any of these that you would like to do, we would like to do that prior to the sale, so they won't be, so we can have an amended list on it. So the sale's on April 30th, and we have done a lot of advertising. So there'll be radio ads, and there's been some sent out on the internet and the local magazines, realtors and things. And so there's been a lot of advertisement that the auditor's office has done to promote this commissioner deed sale. So hopefully we're going to have a lot of activity on it. But I would say by your next meeting next month, if there could be something on the agenda, if you wanted to consider doing it, then we could get it done and have those completed before taken off the list for the sale on April 30th.
Can you get us the addresses? Email those to us?
Yes, sir. And the PowerPoint presentation, it's going to have all this, and the maps and things will be sent to your individual email so that you can bring it up. I apologize, I didn't have the handouts for you this morning, and that's my fault. But they will be emailed to you as soon as the meeting's over today.
Charlie, if you could send them to me too, because we'll have to trace down some of those addresses too.
Right, and all the like everything else that we have in the sale, all the title work, everything's been completed. So all of that's been done and paid for. So there's clear titles and things to them, but we'll get them to you, the commissioners and Mr. Brook here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Rogers.
I'd like to conclude by saying one thing.
Sure.
I feel like we need to say, and that is, even though we are a Christian organization, we do not eliminate anybody with a different faith. In fact, years ago when we first started the program, I had a young man that was a Muslim that was a part of the Transitional House. So we want to make sure that it's known that it's open to all faiths. So that's what I want to make sure you do.
Thank you for
Thank you.
clarifying that. So would you like to table this?
Yeah, I want to table it. I want to review all the addresses, the properties.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Ms. Reagan?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and moving on to the contracts, the joint interlocal cooperation agreement. Is that Mr. Wilson?
This interlocal agreement with the redevelopment commission, actually the Creed board on working on the trail project out at the south side of town. This was approved by the redevelopment commission at their meeting last week after a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Reagan?
Yes. Thank you, Joe. Okay, second reading for the ordinance 2019-011. And who do we have here? Oh, Marta. There she is.
I'll start. Marta Moody, Executive Director for the Delaware Muncie Metropolitan Plan Commission. And this is a rezoning of property that is on the north side of McGalliard, east of Nebo Road, about maybe 600 feet east of, no, it's more than that, I'm sorry. And it is a request for a change in zoning from the R1 residence zone to the BV variety business zone. The Plan Commission heard this earlier this month at their regular monthly meeting, and there was a lot of discussion. The motion was to forward it with an unfavorable recommendation, and that passed with a vote of 5-1 with 3 absent. And during the course of that meeting, there was also discussion about proposed commitments to be attached to the property. And since the Plan Commission's action was an unfavorable recommendation, I still included a copy of those proposed commitments in what was forwarded to you. And there was an addition that had been discussed at the Plan Commission meeting to add a requirement that the development of the site meet all of the buffer yard and planting requirements that are contained in the City of Muncie corridor development standards. And a lot of the commitments that were prepared by Mr. Hughes addressed some of the comments that we heard from neighbors to the north. So I included them, and I also, as of Friday, have a letter that was delivered to our office like at the end of the day on Friday that you do not have, and so I'll give that to you now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you share? And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, I would imagine that there are people here who would like to speak to this matter. Okay.
Do we need to introduce this first?
No, it's already been introduced. This is for second reading. You would ask for those in favor of it and those
Favor,
against it?
yes. I think we have some spokespersons over here.
Madam President, members of the commissioners, William Hughes, he's in Gilkison, 110, he's Charles Muncie, representing Muncie First Church of the Nazarene. With me today are Pastor Mark Dill, who's the senior pastor at the church, Keith Gary from U.S. Architects, a member of their board, Trent Dowling of Star Financial Bank, also a board member. As Marty indicated, this rezoning request is for a little under 6 acres, 5.84 acres. It is vacant land on the west side of the existing church property. The church has been there for over 30 years. The church address is 3101 North Benton Road. Our request is to rezone this western portion of their property from R1 to BV Variety Business. This tract fronts on Indiana 332. It is bounded by the church on the east, by Westport Addition on the north, by the Meyer gas station on the west. I have an aerial photograph by Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have these. Thank you.
This is a view looking from the west, and I think gives a good picture of the development of the intersection of Nebo Road and 332. It's taken before the development, the ongoing development on the south east corner, which would be the Hubler automobile dealerships. In that photograph, you'll see Menards, Toyota, Muncie, Benson Motorcycles, Meyer Store, and the Meyer gas station, Discount Tire, American Chevrolet Cadillac, Kia of Muncie, Walls Furniture Store, Care Animal Hospital, and as I said, the area that will be the site of Huber Ford and Huber Hyundai. Our particular parcel has variety business zoning on two sides, the east and the south. It is clear that this parcel, which has been vacant ever since the church acquired it, as I said, more than 30 years ago, will not be developed under its present zoning. It is not suitable for R1 residential development. The property is under conditional sales contract to BSB Enterprises, which is a local company that intends to develop the site for a single commercial user. The reason we do not have more information on the proposed development is that it is subject to corporate approval, to financing, to preparation of definitive plans, none of which can move forward until it's determined if the proper zoning can be acquired. The developer has been in contact with Delaware County Economic Development Office, and Mr. Bookout provided a letter to the Plan Commission in support of this proposal. As Marta said, we've offered a written commitment. These commitments under law are binding and enforceable, as would be any other zoning restriction. The three major areas we attempted to address, based on comments that we had received from some of our neighbors, were first to install and maintain an earthen berm along the north boundary line of the parcel to provide separation from the residential area to the north. This would be then in addition to the corridor requirements that Marta mentioned that the Plan Commission staff suggested might be appropriate and that we are certainly willing to accept as part of the commitment. Second would be restricting vehicular access to this property to come only from the west across the Meyer access drive or across the drive which runs in front of or behind the Meyer gas station. There would be no access from Burgess Drive or across the church property from Benton Road. Keith Carey has been working with Meyer, has been in contact with them. They are amenable to having this occur. It would be at our expense, of course, and we would be required to pay to maintain any access, but they are willing to work with us in that regard to have the appropriate type of permanent access easement. Finally, we attempted to address improving the drainage in the area. There is an existing retention pond on the church property, and the church has committed to grant a permanent easement for drainage purposes, and as a part of this development, that pond would be enlarged and improved to make sure it could accommodate all surface water drainage. And of course, in addition to the specific areas that we address in the commitment, that any development will also be subject to all the development standards of the Delaware County Comprehensive Ordinance, as well as all other applicable ordinances, such as the Delaware County Stormwater Ordinance. It will also be required before any development would take place that the developer submit a development plan to the Plan Commission for the staff approval, outlining all of the detailed development requirements. In our opinion, we don't believe that this change in zoning will adversely affect the values of the surrounding property. Obviously, the Meyer store is the largest single development in that area, I believe, and has been there for quite a few years at this point. With all the other commercial development in the area, I think whatever impact there might have been on residential properties in the area, that has already happened. We believe this is the best and most adequate use of the property. As I said, it's not going to develop for single-family residential housing. It's clearly not spot zoning. It's adjacent to these large commercial tracts. The owner can comply with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and it's in fact offered to go beyond those requirements with these written commitments. We do not believe that traffic congestion will be unnecessarily increased, and we have attempted to assure that by limiting access to come from the west. And we suggest that this proposal is in line with good zoning practice, putting new commercial development next to, adjacent to existing commercial development rather than off somewhere by itself. We did receive an unfavorable recommendation from the Plan Commission. Several members who voted in the majority there stated they did so because we were unable to disclose the proposed use of the parcel, and I understand their concern. But in making a zoning decision, you're really determining the most appropriate classification for the parcel of land. You're not approving a particular owner or a particular use. This parcel is currently zoned for single-family residential housing. There is no interest in developing the land for that purpose. It runs on a busy 4-lane state highway, and it's adjacent to high-traffic retail, box store, and other commercial development. Given the scope of the commercial development in the Nebo 332 area, the best and most adequate use of this property is more commercial development. We understand neighbors would prefer to see the land remain undeveloped. It's certainly an amenity for them in that regard. The church takes very good care of that property. However, it's not the function of zoning to restrict owners from developing their land so that adjoining property owners can enjoy a perpetual vacant lot next door. Muncie First Church of the Nazarene invested in this area more than 30 years ago. They intend to remain in their location and be a neighbor to this new development. We believe it is not unreasonable of them to ask you to approve the commercial rezoning this portion of their property as the best use, because the alternative, frankly, is no development at all. Be happy to answer any questions and offer my colleagues anything they'd like to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Those who are opposed would like to speak.
My name is Rich Swingley. I live at 3304 North Harrison Road in the Westport edition, as it's known. There's a few things I found it interesting in the argument for that it was constantly brought up that there's no other way to develop this parcel. I guess I'm a little lost. Is it mandatory that we develop every single parcel of land? Now, I'll leave that out there to learn that answer later. But I have standard concerns. Light and sound is going to be a problem. It already is in that area. Do we want to make it worse is the question. The sign for this business, since this is in the county, can be 45 feet high, and there's no limitation on digital signage. I'm talking about the bright LED signs that can flash like a disco ball. That will impact the neighborhood. The business might close early in the evening, but if it would happen to be something, like a car lot, the transporters offload overnight, making noise. So there will be an impact in that. But there's three things I want to point out that I really am hoping the commissioners will consider here. You're being asked to make a decision in the dark. I understand that's legal, right? It's their right to do that. But the commissioners should not be under any obligation to ignore the fact that this creates a variable that can impact the homeowners in this neighborhood. We don't know what we're talking about. I'll just ask you this. Would you go out and buy a pair of pants, something as simple as a pair of pants that you've never seen, you don't know what the maker, brand, color is? You wouldn't do it on something that simple. Are you going to make a decision on rezoning that will impact the lives of the homeowners in this community without even knowing exactly what it is that's going in? Now, here's the second point. From the church property, without my glasses, by the way, and I am nearsighted, so I kind of need them. Without my glasses, I can see multiple parcels of land that are already zoned as commercial. Here's the question. What's so special and specific about this business that it has to live on the church's property to exist, to be able to be sustainable? The question you need to be asking is, why can't that business, if it would happen to be a car lot or something like that, why can't it go over with the other car lots over by the Chevy dealership where Coldwell Banker has commercial property available right now? If the answer is, well, yeah, they could go over there, why are we rezoning? Now, there's no way to answer this question again because we don't know what's going in, right? We only hear rumors. Now, one last thing. There was a lot of talk about the retention pond. We've already been told, we heard this in the previous meeting with the DMMC. This pond's going to be beautiful. It's going to be expanded to hold the excess water and the drainage. But we're talking about adding 6 acres of asphalt in an area that Keith Gary, the architect who is going to design and develop this, he admitted in the DMMC meeting that the church was built on swampland. Exact words, swampland. Do you want to add 6 acres of asphalt onto that property? The property all the way to the west edge near Meyer has cattails and it's not mowed down because it's too wet to mow. Where's that water going to go? It's going to go to this new retention pond. But here's the trick. We keep hearing the pastor for the church said in the DMMC meeting, it'll be a beautiful pond with fountains. A retention pond that's designed to take the excess water looks like that ugly trench behind Meyer. Because the water level is like 4 to 5 feet below the surface of the bank. That way when you have peak demand, the water runs off into it. The church isn't going to build that kind of pond because it's going to be beautiful with a fountain out front. So the level of the water is going to be even with the ground. But where's that water going to go? Well, thank you. I hope you'll really consider the impact and the risk versus the reward on this
I
situation.
need you to sign in too, sir.
Oh, okay.
There's a sheet right there that everyone needs to sign in.
Good morning. I'm Linda Hanson, spokesperson for the League of Women Voters, 1400 West North Street, Muncie. In 1991, a 15-page study, Gateways of Delaware County, attempted to raise public awareness of the aesthetic importance of entrances to Muncie, as well as to recommend an ordinance that would improve the appearance and safety of Muncie's major corridors. The League of Women Voters spoke in favor of a stricter ordinance, one that would meet the standards of excellent urban planning. The proposed recommendations were ignored and watered down through the influence of developers and powerful elected officials. As a result, many Muncie corridors, especially McGalliard Road, became a forest of pole signs and utility poles, with commercial buildings setbacks so frontage was mostly parking lots. Trees and shrubs were few and far between. There was no safe place for pedestrians or bicycles. Anyone who attended the Muncie Action Plan meetings in this last decade, remembers that McGalliard was top of the list of areas of community blight, while Minnetrista, the downtown, and Ball State University, which adhered to the standards finally incorporated into Muncie's comprehensive zoning ordinance, were consistently identified as attractive, desirable, and functional places. In 2014, the city took long overdue steps in the right direction with its comprehensive zoning ordinance for new corridor development. Trying to remedy 20-plus years of unfortunate zoning practices has not been smooth, but progress has been made along stretches of McGalliard as new and remodeled businesses meet the standards set in the ordinance. Monument-style ground signs, parking behind buildings, reduced curb cuts, shade trees and other plantings, removal of utility poles, and improved pedestrian accessibility. The efforts are enhancing the aesthetic quality, economic health, and safety of our city. We recognize that the city and county comprehensive zoning ordinances must address different issues, but there are points where they converge. The Indiana 332 corridor west of Morrison is one of those points. Citizens' expectations are that new development and renovations will fulfill the zoning requirements and the spirit of comprehensive zoning for corridor development. Those expectations depend on elected officials not only enforcing the ordinance, but anticipating how their actions would contribute to making the McGalliard corridor more attractive, functional, and safe. Mr. Hughes has addressed many of the issues that concern us. Page 23 of the Delaware County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance states that each proposed zoning change referred to the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Delaware, Indiana, shall set forth the exact use for which the petitioner is requesting the change. Rezoning a parcel of land without specific knowledge of its proposed ownership and use is an abdication of responsibility. We urge you to follow the recommendation of the Metropolitan Planning Commission and reject the rezoning request from First Church of the Nazarene. Keep the parcel as a buffer between county and city requirements for corridor development. Thank you for your attention and your service.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Al Williams. I live in the 3400 block of North Burgess Road. I'm a retired Muncie police officer and I currently work at Ball State. You know, I've lived in this neighborhood 28 years. Been a great place to raise a family. Most of my neighbors are here and they've lived there a lot longer than we have. I'm just asking to protect our neighborhood. You know, if you drove in our neighborhood, you'd see our roads wouldn't function, having a lot of extra traffic. They're not very wide, plus just the conditions of the road. You know, like I said, in the 28 years I've lived there, Meyer moved in 20 plus years ago. You know, they've been a decent neighbor, quite honestly. You know, the buffer there and the dirt mound and the fence, you know, I've repaired my fence behind my house multiple times. You know, I've caught a few shoplifters jumping the fence running through my yard over the years. And I can show you pictures on my phone right now of the trash that's back there that we have to call every week to have them, beg them to come pick up. They haven't picked it up since the first of the year. So that's a routine call to have some other people come pick the trash up. But otherwise, they've been pretty good neighbors. You know, the First Church of the Nazarene is a great neighbor. You know, we've never had an issue with them. You know, most of the folks go there. You know, but I understand progress, and I get that part of it. You know, we'd rather not have that there, quite honestly. We'd rather have that vacant lot there. You know, because we've got 70 plus neighbors in that neighborhood, and I don't think any of them would be for this, like most people wouldn't. But we're asking you to protect our neighborhood. You know, Burgess Road, please don't allow traffic down through that road. The neighborhood wouldn't allow that. And if you come out there on a good rainy day, our road looks like a river. The water does run our direction down to the south, from the south to the north. So I'm asking, please, if you do allow this, you got two choices not allow it, because we don't know what it is. I mean, the rumors are car lots and things like that. You know, nobody wants to have a property beside a car lot, but I understand progress. But if you do allow it, put a buffer there so they can't use our road, you know, the dirt and the fence. You know, if the church is totally for it, I assume they would allow access in and out through their church lot, you know, and Meyer. But protect our neighborhoods, all I'm asking you for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Clark Van Tassel. I live at 3301 North Burgess Road. My property adjoins the property in question here. I built my house out there 53 years ago. Still live there. I would like to continue to live there with the peace and quiet that we've enjoyed to this point. This development has the potential to destroy all of that. I actually believe that the final decision on this is not going to be up to this board. It's not going to be up to the neighborhood. It's going to be up to Meyer as to what they're going to allow. I talked to the Meyer representative who's over this, and he assured me that he is the one in charge of it. There's nobody I could talk to that goes over his head. A gentleman named Matt Levitt, I believe, Levitt. I talked to him Thursday afternoon, this last Thursday, March the 14th, at 2:40 p.m. I guess this is the confusing thing right now, is because Mr. Levitt says that there is no agreement with the developer of that at this particular juncture. They have nothing in writing. He has spoken with them. He did say that they will not allow a drive to be put across their pad. By the pad, he means the area that's already paved for the gas station. So the drive would have to go north of that, which puts that actually coming in to the back of my house, but they would have to obviously make a turn, and then make a turn. And then the other thing, see, this is all right in and right out, as it is currently. That means these transports or customers or whatever coming, from Muncie can turn in the drive going into the Meyer property, but they can't get out that way. They've got to go across Meyer's parking lot, over to Nebo Road, and then back south to 332, and then they can go back east. I don't know where Meyer's going to be in favor of transport trucks and so on transgressing their property to get back over to Nebo Road and so on. So there are some questions about how that's going to develop. As for me personally, like I say, because I'm the very end house there on Burgess Road, building a urban dam and so on. Well, I got a berm, I guess it is. I already have one behind me that Meyer built, and like Mr. Williams said, they've been pretty respectable neighbors. But this is coming within 10 feet. The property line is just 10 feet from my house, and to build another earthen berm on the south side. Then I've got one on the west side of my property. I've got one on the south. So I feel like I'm kind of in a rabbit hole with earthen dams around two sides of me. Used to be farm ground. I really loved it when it was soybeans and corn.
Well, I have to cut you off, but
Yeah,
thank you
well,
very much.
One point, are there any other uses for this land? I understand the predicament the church is in, although when they built out there, they knew that ground was landlocked. And so now they're willing to devalue my property, devalue the property, and when they say it's not going to devalue our property, they're not thinking straight. It will devalue all of our property and have
Thank you
Sir,
very
it's been
much.
3 minutes, thanks.
I just have a question. The map that you had, is that a overhead view of the properties, or is that a?
Well, then Mr. Hughes hit it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, from looking east, on the
This is what he handed
west
out.
side of all the developments.
Sir, we got one of these also.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, we also
That's
got,
an overview that's got the addition right behind it.
Yeah.
Does it
Anybody
show-
else wish to speak?
there's 2 or 3 different maps in the package. With that.
We've never seen them.
Did he sign in? Did he sign in?
My name is George Shigley, and I live at 3301 North Benton Road, which is next to the church. And there is several other properties out there for sale. There's property in front of Myers, Menards. There's one behind the Kia dealer, and there's also some property for sale behind the new Ford dealership that's being built. I seen this the other day when I drove out there. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Joe Scagnoli. We live at 3301 North Harrison Road. We're right adjacent to the church in the parking lot there. I agree with the comments that have been made by the neighbors about those same concerns, so I'm not going to repeat those. One thing I would like to point back to with Mr. Yu's comments about all the similar businesses that are around here, and this would just be an extension of that. In my letter to the board members, which you had this morning, one big difference about that is that there are no neighborhoods around those other businesses. You don't have homes that would be up as close as Clark's home and that would be near that business. And again, my concern would be just in protecting that neighborhood. It's a quiet neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood. And I think this is going to bring in a lot of traffic and a lot of extra light and all these other concerns that were mentioned about that. So I think there's a big difference in that kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Can I make one other point that I wasn't able to make? All those businesses that were mentioned have driveways either on the 332 or on a Nebo Road. This one does not.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
I got a question.
Mhm.
How many people visit cont'd? Or how many people use the Walgreens on Morrison Road? Guess whose home was taken away when all that stuff was built? I lived on Morrison Road. But it's okay for me to be taken out of my house that I lived in as a kid, so we can have Concanons, we can have Thrive, we can have Rural King, we can have PetSmart, we can have all that down in that neighborhood. I don't remember everybody getting in an uproar when I was removed from my property then, because everybody was getting something there. You know, I understand the church and this property and everything here, but it's really not taking you guys from your house and moving you somewhere else. You still have your land there. You still have your home. I would have loved to still have my home when I was a kid, but I was moved someplace else. Actually, I had to go live with my grandparents when we were removed from our property.
May I ask a question, please? when your house was taken away.
Sir,
was
you
it
guys
for-
need to
Sir,
speak, you
can-
need to.
can- I didn't speak when you was up.
Okay, well,
Okay?
I would like to ask a question.
Right. You know, I can understand what you guys are talking about and everything else, but, you know, there's progress that you have to go through. I went through the progress and everything, but your homes are not getting taken away. One of the other things is, Mr. Hughes, where are you guys at with getting the roadway to the 5.84 acres?
Mr. Van Hessel is correct, we do not have a written agreement with Meyer at this point. Keith has been the one that's been in touch with Mr. Levitt. They've had a series of conversations and email exchanges. No reason to finalize an agreement until we know if the zoning is going to be available. And he's absolutely correct, if we cannot come to an agreement with Meyer, given what it states in those commitments, this development cannot occur, because we've already committed that there will be no access to Burgess Road, which would be the other immediate access, and there would be no access to Benton Road. The Indiana Department of Transportation has made it clear there's going to be no access from 332. So if Meyer simply says no, there will be no development.
Because that would be one of the things, I do not want any of the access into the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
That would be one of my things.
And the commitment.
It's in the commitment.
The commitment very clearly states that the real estate shall have no vehicular access from North Burgess Road. This commitment is a covenant running with the land, binding on all successive owners and occupants and all other persons having interest in this real estate. The commitment may not be waived, modified in whole or in part, or terminated without the approval of the Board of County Commissioners and after a public hearing and recommendation from the Plan Commission. So it is as binding as we can make it.
And there will be a berm put up for the buffer.
Yep, the berm plus the corridor requirements that Marta referred to.
Well, I like green grass myself. I don't like to cut it all the time. And it's landlocked, basically. I mean, you don't have anything from Myers that is telling you that it's going to be a go. And I can see where the gentleman said that those transports that go back east are going to have to go through Myers. And I just can't believe that they would allow that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance number 2019-011, being an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance, including the commitments made in PC 03-19Z.
Or I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Those were some of the requirements that the planning and zoning asked, wasn't it? For the access and the berm. be put in.
In the case analysis that was given to the Plan Commission members, it was recommended that they do commitments that would prevent access into the neighborhood, and also that they deal with buffering.
And Mr. Hughes said it was put in there?
Yes,
it's
it
right
is.
here. It's
It
right
is.
here.
It is.
It's
I
right
see
here,
that.
James.
Just want to make sure.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mr. Kane,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
No. Okay, moving on. Resolution for approval, 2019-008.
This is a resolution that was also adopted by the Redevelopment Commission. This goes in conjunction with the interlocal agreement that was previously approved for the trail project on the south side.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Okay, any department heads, elected officials like to communicate today?
Go ahead. Oh, well, thank you, Rick. You're such a gentleman. Molly Hunt, County Extension Director for Delaware County Purdue Extension. If it would please the commissioners, I have a monthly report to hand out here. Pass it on down. That might be long enough to keep one so I know what I'm talking about. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you all for your continued support of Extension in Delaware County. And in an effort to be more transparent and make everybody aware of all the great work that's happening by way of Purdue Extension through your support, we have come up with this sort of format to give you either on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. I'm happy to send it to your inbox and come and visit you and share on a regular basis, however you all would most like to see that report done.
Thank you. This is very nice to know what you're doing, and quarterly would be fine for me.
Yeah, quarterly would be sufficient.
It would be fine, but also if there is something that you need to put on for the public to know, you're
Right.
welcome to come back and, you know, on. But thank you very much for thinking of this.
Wonderful. Thank you again.
Thank you. Now,
Good morning, Commissioner. Rick Spangler, County Clerk. I have given you the final list for polling locations for the primary and general election for this year's municipal elections. As you can see, the first list we gave you, the old Albany Administration Building, now known as the Oakwood Building, will be available for us for both elections. And we did take Precinct 81 and move it into Precinct 33 at the First Brethren Church on Morrison Road. 81 only had 47 voters, and we couldn't see the price of a polling station for just that number of voters. It was an easy, quick move. So if you guys will see fit to approve this, I will release it. And
are they going to be there at the Oak Building? Are they going to be using the gymnasium or the south end?
well, he didn't say. Probably previously you had two precincts there, and we'll just do one location.
Right.
Also trying to keep down the number of people and.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Jen's in getting some of the lease, so we received some of them back. We don't have them all yet.
Okay, all right.
Anybody else? Okay. We have a payments of claim of $1,756,463.82.
Make a motion for payment of claims.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Anybody else today?
Make a motion to recess.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes.